Okay, Miss Lauren, we are checking for um, sound bites. So as soon as my AV team gives me the thumbs up, then we're good to go and we can get on our
Love that AV
merry
team.
way. Yes? Oh, we got a thumbs up. Nice. Okay, all right. So, greetings, future innovators. I'm Ambericent Cornett, your illuminator for today's session in the STEAM Speaker Series, proudly brought to you by AWIS DC or AWIS DC and sponsored by Camilico LLC. As president of the AWIS DC chapter, I leverage my extensive background in intelligence, information operations, cybersecurity, and public health to bring thought provoking and impactful initiatives to the forefront to promote inclusivity. So currently, I am progressing through dissertation stage of my quantum technology doctorate. And I also have a career that spans significant roles in engineering program management and space medicine epidemiology at places like NASA Johnson Space Center in my hometown, Houston, Texas, as well as expertise in global migration and zoonotic infectious disease epidemiology with the CDC. So today, uh, today's event continues our tradition of showcasing the diverse talents within STEAM, being that science, technology, engineering, arts, maths, and medicine. Our speakers from emerging talents to establish, experts are from all over the globe, highlighting our commitment to celebrating the achievements of women in these fields worldwide. So today is no different. It is my honor, my esteemed pleasure to introduce today's incomparable guest and valued friend of AWIS DC, Mrs. Lauren Knausenberger. Lauren is the Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer of SAIC, where she drives the company's innovation strategy across their solutions and services portfolio, aligning the cutting edge technology transformations with mission critical customer needs. Please welcome Miss Lauren Knausenberger. Hi,
Hi,
Lauren.
how's it going?
It is thrilling to say the least. I am trying to wipe away some of the extensive grin on my face, but hey, we we can't, right? Um, so hopefully you all know a little bit about Lauren, but just in case, I am going to refresh your memory because I have to tell you um, about her background. So, Lauren is the executive, of course, I've already said that, executive vice president and chief innovation officer of SAIC, a premier Fortune 500 technology integrator driving our nation's technology transformation with annual revenues of $7.4 billion dollars and approximately 24,000 employees. I mean, come on. SAIC provides engineering, digital, artificial intelligence, and mission solutions across the defense, space, civilian, and intelligence markets. In her dual responsibility role, Lauren leads innovation strategy across the company's solutions and services portfolio and ensures that SAIC's transformation capabilities are mission relevant, agile, and aligned with the needs of the customers. Prior to joining SAIC in October of 2023, Miss Laura was the Chief Information Officer of the United States Department of the Air Force, where she was responsible for three directorates for enterprise information technology, data and artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity, all respectively, supporting 20,000 cyber operations and support personnel across the entire globe. Ms. Hutzenberger she's provided oversight for the Air Force IT investment strategy from networks to cloud computing, enterprise policies, data management, digital transformation, information resources management, innovation initiatives, information assurance, and other related matters in this field. Lots of focus. Prior to joining the Air Force, she was an entrepreneur and investor helping to grow companies involved with U.S. national security. And before that, she had positions of increasing responsibility in at khaki for the American management systems. She has earned her bachelor's degree in decision and information sciences from University of Maryland, and she has a master's. She has an MBA from Wharton School at University of Pennsylvania. So Lauren obviously stands a testament to the innovation and leadership emerging from the realm of STEAM. Her work in advancing technology solutions not only underscores her astute technological acumen, but also her commitment to enhancing national security and technological accessibility. So please welcome Ms. Lauren, our STEAM influencer and innovator icon. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today to share your journey and your insights. Please tell us, how you are today. Like, how does it feel hearing all of that you have amassed already? I mean, I can't imagine.
Oh man, I was just thinking that was quite a bio. And, yes, you know what? It's been a really fun career. Um, and I feel like I should have given you a shorter bio, um, but
No,
but
all flowers today.
yeah, no, but it's been a good day. I actually spent the day with SAIC's executive leadership team and our CEO Tony Towns Whitley, who has to be the most inspiring leader that I've ever worked with in my career. If you get a chance to, if you Google Tony Towns Whitley and just kind of look at different examples of her speaking philosophy, just a really incredible person to work with. And it's always good to spend time with your team, with the leadership team, the team, which is the team that I'm on. And we talk a lot about the team that you're on and the team that you lead, so the executive leadership team right now is the team that I'm on. And then I also lead the innovation team for SAIC, but really exciting time. And STEAM is near and dear to my heart. I have two little girls, ages 9 and 10. And they're both in DC public schools, both STEAM kids, and I grew up a STEAM kid. And I think that it's especially important for women to know that this is a field that needs us. And so I
Absolutely.
was thrilled to be asked to come and chat with you and your group here today.
Well, I couldn't think of, I mean, yes, there's people that have been here before. There's people that are going to be, I can't think of anybody else to talk this through, especially innovation management. That's one of the things that I really love and adore. I think that innovation is key to promoting all of the things STEM related. So I'm excited to get into this and I can't wait to ask you all these questions and I'm sure they'll come with many, many more. I will try not to pivot. But Oh, also for our audience, just to let you all know, anything that we talk about, we'll clarify any acronyms, technical terms to make sure that you keep up with us so you're not Googling and swiping up and figuring out something else to look at during this YouTube session because we want to have full attention, full authority over your next hour. So for Lauren's discussion, we'll explore the strategic initiatives at SAIC, her vision for technology transformation, and her role for shaping the future of global technology infrastructures. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. First up is transition from public to private sector. So, Lauren, you've transitioned from a key role as a CIO, which is a Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Department of Air Force, to the leadership position at SAIC. What inspired you to transition, like make this shift, and how have your experience in government shaped your approach to innovation in the private sector?
Yeah, so first, my jump into government was very much by accident. It happened in, well, I guess it was late 2016. I got a call my husband got a call from an Air Force captain. I was an entrepreneur at the time. And the captain knew my husband and he just said, hey, can I get your wife's number? Because we need more companies like hers in government, and he really wanted to shake things up and was inspired by some opportunities that he saw but also kind of frustrated by some roadblocks that were
Mm,
in his way. And after my husband stopped laughing, he gave the captain my number, and we went and we had a beer at Blue Jacket Brewery down by the Navy Yard in DC.
I know where
And
that is.
the captain, he laid out all of the things that he was passionate about that he wanted to get done. And he also laid out some of the roadblocks that he was facing and just some of kind of the pain points across the enterprise. And over the course of our beer date, literally on a bar napkin, basically we drew out what could become an innovation framework for then the United States Air Force. It later Space Force was created. It became the Department of the Air Force to include the Air Force and the Space Force, but at the time it was just the U.S. Air Force. And he asked, hey, is there any way that I have this meeting with the general on Monday? Is there any way that you can put this into a PowerPoint? And so over the weekend, put it into a PowerPoint. And Monday morning, it was briefed to General Kreider, who became the
Oh, okay.
first chief data officer for the U.S. Air Force, and to General Holmes, who became a four-star, I want to say a year or two later, in charge of all of the air forces, the air power for the Air
Right,
Force,
right.
at Air Combat Command. And then finally to the CIO, who then was Lieutenant General Bill Bender. Um, so I had never met a general in my life, and all of a sudden I'm briefing all of these people on this innovation framework. And one day I was just asked, like, is there any way that you would consider coming into government service? And at first I said no, like, absolutely not. I mean, I believe I said something like the probability is approaching zero. Um, but um, but I am so honored and humbled to be asked that I'll explore it. And as I explored it, I realized that it was something that I was called to do and that I had to do, and I really wanted to help solve this problem. And quite frankly, chatting with that captain and working with the community that came around the problem, even before I jumped into government, it was the most inspiring and exciting thing that I was working on. And so, it was natural that I would kind of pick that up and go.
Right.
And then just as I was going to, it was an experiment. I mean, I jumped from industry into so that role was effectively like a one-star general equivalent from someone who had never served in the military. Um, and didn't know I didn't know anybody at the Pentagon. Like, a captain asked my husband if he could have a beer with me. Like, literally, this is how this happened. And so it's very non-traditional. So I was like, well, I'll experiment and see, somewhere between 1 and 3 years and see. And at the 3-year point, I was about to leave. I was about to head back to industry, which was, my intent. But I was asked, hey, is there any way you would stay on and, just toss your name in the hat for the CIO job? And I thought that was hilarious because, again, 3 years serving in the Air Force. Um, and the CIO role, you have to be part innovator, part technologist, and part bureaucrat. There's a lot of governance. There's a lot of moving of money around
Right.
institutions. There's a lot of long-term relationships, and previously it had been a 3-star general. And so they just converted it to a 3-star civilian equivalent. But I tossed my name in the hat because I was asked to. And I was just like, you know what, if they are crazy enough to choose me, then I'm going to give it my all. And so I did. And it turned out that they really wanted different. They really wanted someone to shake things up. They were serious. And because they were serious about different, they chose a person who was a little bit different, who thought a little differently. And the relationships actually came very quickly because I was so passionate and I cared. And one thing that was really interesting and that I knew and everyone else knew was that every room I was in, I was the smartest person in the room on some things, and I was thoroughly the dumbest person in the room on other things. And no, and I don't say that to be disparaging. It's about knowing it's actually a wonderful place to be. Because when you know where you're the smartest, and everybody knows where you're the smartest, and you also know exactly where your gaps are, and you give your colleagues and your team the respect of
Right.
the co-mentorship and knowing that it takes a team. I mean, it is a powerful situation, and rarely is it that clear exactly what you bring and what you don't bring. I can't come up with 30 years of experience that all of my colleagues have in 3. There's no way. So there are things like that, but that's not what they were looking for from me. They were almost looking for the enough inexperience to not say, oh, we tried that 5 years ago, like it's like, giddy up, let's try it again. This is how
Right.
it's so did 3 years in the CIO role, and it was time. It was time to get back to industry. Um, and in general, roles like that, I think 3 years is about right. You have to have enough time to
Right.
make a difference, but much more than that, you're depriving someone else of that leadership opportunity. You're depriving the enterprise of new thinking and new energy as well. And so it was time for me to jump into industry. And my the one thing that I knew I was going to do was fake retire for a period of time. So I did that very well. I took 4 months off and over the summer. So I took my kids and my husband, and we ran around Europe for 2 full months, um,
Nice.
and just had a blast. And then while I was running around Europe, got a call from Tony Towns Whitley, after another person within SAIC had said, "Hey, you should talk to her." And she remembered running into me in my Air Force job. We knew of each other.
Wow.
We respected each other. We hadn't spent much time together. But she called and said, "Hey, I'd really love for you to toss your name in the hat." And I hadn't been thinking about SAIC. It was not even on my list. Like if you asked me, I
Right.
would be like, no, there's no way that I'm going to SAIC. That's like going from Baptist to Presbyterian. That's not what I'm doing here. Um, and but I was inspired by Tony's vision. And I loved where she thought that this defense integrator um, could take the all of those mission imperatives that I held dear during my time serving,
Right.
and
Right.
kind of take that mantle on from a different perspective, jump back into an innovation role that I love, but with the power to shift strategy, technology, to build capabilities within the company, and where it didn't make sense to build, integrate, or partner with existing firms, to be able to venture, make small investments in companies
Okay.
that are doing meaningful work, and immediately help de-risk them and help them scale and help them be cyber sure, and bring them into defense problems that they otherwise would have either never been brought into or would have taken years. Um, and so that is exciting, and it's powerful, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and got to do a bit of also while serving. Um, so that's how I ended up at SAIC. I actually just celebrated my 1 year anniversary on October 2nd. And it's been fantastic. I'm working with some of the most brilliant people I've ever gotten to work with. We're right in the middle of key missions. I'm seeing the impact of my work. These are all things that are important. I adore my boss and respect my boss. I can learn from her every day. Um, and my colleagues are fantastic. And we can be very direct with each other. We can disagree, but we love each other and we're there to help each other. And it's fantastic. And likewise, my team is just, they're brilliant. They're strategic. They are ready to just hit the mission with everything they have. And so I feel incredibly blessed to be where I am right now.
Yeah, I mean that is to know that your idea went from a paper napkin at a bar to a billion-dollar organization and making such a significant change is it's like crazy to me. So that I mean, a lot of times people will tell you, "Oh, it's a, right place, right time, people that you know type thing." But honestly, I mean, I think you set yourself up to be in this position long time ago. It just so happened that it was a conversation between two people to integrate you into the manifold. And I think that's amazing that they saw the gift that you have to be able to put you in that platform and let you just, I mean, flourish. So that's
It
amazing.
is wild looking back at that. And there are a couple of things in there. I mean, I used to kind of say to myself, be in the right place at the right time and say the right thing, you know, because there are times it's like when you're playing Texas Hold'em and you have a crappy hand, it's like, I'll kind of,
Gotta,
but when you get that good hand, you got to play it.
right.
And you got to look for those hands. And sometimes even if you have a crappy hand, you got to make the big bet. And I think that, I now see it more as kind of A career is a series of doors. You can create situations where you see more doors. Like events like this, especially,
Right.
when you get to know people and you get to, spend more time with people in a similar career that have similar passions who you genuinely enjoy, which, by the way, I think is the only way to do networking. People that you genuinely
Only
enjoy,
way.
shared discussions that you want to have. Um, yes, that is, I used to hate the word networking. When you define it that way, I'm okay with it, because it's like, oh, that
Right.
sounds like just talking about stuff I like to talk about. Great. And connecting with great people. So you can create more of those situations, but you still have to decide what doors you're going through and what not. And
Right.
and sometimes it has nothing to do with, relationships or even having a foot above. It's about how you touch a person in a moment. And I will tell you the big thing that shifted me from hey, odds are approaching zero to all right, I'm in with both feet, like toss me in the deep end, was that Lieutenant General looks across the table and says, when you talk about these things, I believe we can accomplish them. And that hit me through the heart because he saw
Man.
something in me that I didn't see in myself. So leadership in him conveying
Right.
that to me, and me also realizing, wait a second, you have something here that you have to do.
Right.
And I wouldn't have said, I did not see that for myself. So, there are so many things that can happen. And I guess another thing sometimes people see things in us and we have to be open to it. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that incredible fear tactic that just draws us in, or like, the self behavior of like self sabotage, things like that. That definitely does play a big part. I mean, even the people that I bring on this platform, right? Like some of them I know from a transition period. Some of them I don't know, and I reach out to them, and I feel like everybody is just so warm and inviting and so precious now because they've been on this platform that I have like this requirement to like protect them at all costs. Like they're just national treasures at this point. So that goes for you too. Just letting you know, like people like you are what makes this platform so great. I could never imagine talking to really big innovators, especially like yourself. So I think this is crazy that I'm even doing it. And I will stop and slow down and breathe so I can ask you this series
Let's
of questions.
stay there. Let's stay there for a minute because I mean, you are doing a great thing. You're bringing together um, women, especially. I'm sure we have a couple men too, but a group full of people that want to learn from each other and do good things. Um, and I'll share too. Like I'm a pretty confident person, but I'm not 100% confident all the time, especially not earlier in my career. That's something that you have to grow. But my
Yeah.
my advice to you and to other folks that are on that kind of have a moment where call it imposter syndrome, call it should I be in this room, should I be at this table, have I earned a right to play for this job, like whatever else. Um, there is a time for self-doubt that informs, and you can give yourself a minute to kind of play through things.
Right.
But when it is time to walk into the room, or when it's time to have the engagement, or when it's time to walk on the stage, or whatever else, that's when you kind of go like this and you say, okay, all of these voices, shut up, I don't hear you. Like kind of like playground, like
Right.
shut off your narrative and substitute my own. That is all praise right now. Like, all take a deep breath, do your superhero pose, and go out. And even if you're not feeling confident, you fake it really, really well because there is no place. There is no positive outcome that comes from dressing yourself down while you are trying to do something important. So, like there's a little bit of compartmentation. You can deal with your stuff later, but in that moment, just out.
I mean, the wisdom. I promise you. I I'm going to write that down and put that in my signature block or in some other places that I will definitely see it, because I think that's a lot of the issues with women, today, even guys, they suffer through it too. Probably just don't mention it as much as we do, because we just want to talk to people and get it out. So that is pure gold from Lauren. If you did not hear it, when you go back, rewind it and play it again. um, well, so oh my gosh, I guess at this point, can we talk about like maybe some strategies or methodologies that you're comfortable with from your government service that you've successfully integrated into your role at SAIC?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that I learned from the military that I apply, and probably even some language that I use now. A lot of leaders in the corporate world will talk about it's not the how, it's the who. In the military, we talk about pinning the rose. So something important needs to be done. Who is the leader that I'm going to pin the rose on to get it done? And once you pin the rose, that's where it's eyes on, hands off.
Right,
Um, it's like here's the vector, here are the outcomes that we were trying to drive. Here are the resources that we have to drive them. I'm here to support you and serve you. But I need you to deliver this outcome. You got this, and then and the military is pretty good at self-forming teams. Once it's like, okay, this person is in charge, maybe they have a team that's focused on that, maybe they don't, but they are in charge of figuring it out and then
yeah,
coming back and asking for help. And that absolutely that was a strategy as CIO. And that's especially a strategy now. I feel like actually I employ it almost better now after having been able to practice it in the military context. That is a big thing. Um, I think also just in any large organization, being able to communicate horizontally is huge. I think a lot of people focus on up and down, which is important, but horizontal usually it's the most important, especially the more senior you get into an organization.
right.
How can you help a colleague? How can you work across an organization? Those are the ways that you create exponential impact beyond what you yourself can do. Um, so those are a couple of things that I guess patterns that I can share.
Okay. And I mean that makes total sense. I know that some of the individuals that have listened to these broadcasts, they may not be military, but I mean that does span across like all platforms. What differences in the organizational culture have you encountered between the public and the private sectors, and how have you navigated through that difference?
Yeah. So I made the joke about Baptist to Presbyterian earlier on, but there is a little bit of that because SAIC is still, we do all federal business,
Right,
or all government business basically. And a good amount of that is defense business. And we hire a lot of veterans, we hire a lot of folks that have spent time deep in the mission. And so that mission piece is still there, like the love of the
right,
mission is still there. It's toned down a little bit in certain pockets because there are many missions. I'm not deep in the Air Force. I have to also, we're actually kind of a lethal joint force because, at any point we have, Army, Navy, Air Force, the joint commands, the space enterprise, like we're all kind of in one room trying to figure out how to
right.
solve problems together. And I think we can do that a lot more efficiently, actually, than sometimes it is inside government. And sometimes we'll see more continuity of architecture more easily. And then we try to help our customers to see where they can also work across lines and lanes. Um, I did make a lot of jokes when I came to SAIC, just like, oh, how is SAIC just like the government? Um, you still have, fiscal year targets, and, you're still looking at your budget at the end of the year, and you're still dealing with colors of money, and, and there's still, depending on where you are, different things that, folks are just resistant to change. And one thing that's been really interesting though is with Tony coming to the helm, she sought to turn a Fortune 500 company. And I will say it's been impressive how quickly a Fortune 500 company can turn. We would joke sometimes in the DoD, it's like we're turning this battleship and it takes a long time because it's a giant ship with a small rudder.
Right.
Um, I look at SAIC and I see a giant ship with a very large rudder. Like, it has been so refreshing to see how that focus and that teamwork and that alignment and that rowing together, and how a leader building a team truly can shift that enterprise. So that's a little bit of similar and different.
Okay. And I mean, I'm not gonna tell any tales. I definitely watch a lot of the industry partners from, the glass that I'm in. And I mean, some of the top people that I've always seen was SAIC. And I've worked with you guys when I was down at Johnson Space Center. I've worked, alongside some of the colleagues when I was working at CDC, and then now in the Intel community. So I mean, I see you out everywhere. That's not fabricated at all. So it's definitely a thing to see, and to know that you all are really good at integrating wherever the platform takes you. That's fantastic.
That's great.
Um, yeah. So know that in my mind, SAIC is a high on the totem pole. Y'all can do no wrong in my eyes. I'm just saying. I'm not biased because you're on the line with me, but I definitely see the characteristics, and I've worked with so many of the team before, and I'm never not amazed. Um, so let's talk about leadership and technology and innovation, because those things go hand in hand. So, as a executive vice president and chief innovation officer at SAIC, you have led the innovation strategy across a crazy vast portfolio. Can you share how you prioritize your initiatives and ensure that the initiative remain aligned with the mission critical needs of your customers, whoever they may be?
Yeah, so we actually have a pretty robust process for this, and I almost wish I could have done this job before going into government, because it's great to see, just a process that works really well. But it's a process that's been refined over time, and I'll say we've improved it so much, even year over year at SAIC. But as we're looking at this, we do go company wide. We, rely on mission leaders to tell us what their top priorities are, and the top problems that they want to solve, the top work that they want to win, the top talent needs that they have, all of those things. And then we get a group together, and so I'm an enterprise function. Like, my entire
Okay.
job is to create as much value as I possibly can for as much of the business of the company that I possibly can. So having that as a North Star, I think, is also helpful. It's all about outsized impact. And so once we have all of those many, many, many investment requests, let's make up a number. Let's say that there's like $100 million worth of investment needed to get after all those things.
Okay.
I'm never going to make $100 million worth of investment, toward all those things. So the next step is look at the commonalities, and what are the things that, if you do them together, then you've created synergy that allows you to produce some sort of a capability that helps many different parts of the business.
Okay.
Now all of a sudden that $100 million is really like $30 million. Um, and then, and you kind of go from there, and then you can have a real discussion. Now you've had a bunch of stakeholders that independently gave inputs, and then when you consolidate it, they see, oh my goodness, my top X are in the rack and stack. But they all see it at the same time. It's not, I'm prioritizing yours over yours. It's, look at these common threads and look at all of these things that we can get done for the entire enterprise. And I
Okay.
think that when you come to the cultural point where everyone's thinking a little bit like that, and you take the time to consolidate and get rid of kind of the duplicates and see like what is something that can solve 80 or 90% for everybody, then you only have to invest on top of that rather than kind of starting in pockets. And so that I think has been the most important, the most important part of that process is the rigorous process, the consolidation, and making sure that all of the stakeholders have a really early buy-in and that they kind of see very transparently throughout and that you're making a decision together on the best outcomes for the company.
If you don't learn anything from this whole yield, I promise you, this is very top level that will tell you why you do things that you do in an organization and why the C-suite is such a designated position. So, um, what what roles does cross-cultural or cross-functional collaboration play in driving innovation at SAIC?
Yeah, I mean, it's critically important in any organization. First, helping everybody to understand that they have a place to play in innovation, because there's the type of innovation that you see in front of you, you know, the very
Right,
practical innovation of doing things better. Um, there's the big idea innovation that has to come from different places because you know, I forget who said this, that the kind of the most dangerous in a good way person that you want is an expert with the eyes of the beginner. Um, you know, and so and sometimes that has to come from two different people, you know. But if you have someone that really, really understands a function, but maybe they're a beginner in technology, or maybe they're just starting to understand like what's possible, you know, they're gonna have kind of both of those pieces,
right,
and be able to kind of look in a different way. Um, but you have to kind of have different looks across the company to really kind of get the best ideas for where you should innovate. Um, and then even then, like if you think about anything that you want to do in innovation, there's usually a technology component, there's usually a process component,
right,
um, there's a huge human capital component, there's a huge communication component. Um, there may be a scaling motion. If you're in a business, there's a go-to-market motion. Because if you are doing something innovative, it doesn't really matter if you can't bring it to the market to solve a problem.
right.
And so there's not usually one group of people that does all of those things. You know, you have to bring that whole team to the table to do it.
Right. And so, with that regard, how do you foster a culture of innovation within your team? And like, what challenges have you faced in doing so?
Yeah, I mean, within my team, the group of leaders that have been cultivated between me and before my time, um, like you could not stop them from being innovative. Like it is who they
Okay.
are. It just it is there. But a lot of the folks, they were created that way because they've had times of great challenge and scarcity, and times of great creativity and times
Right.
of investment. And and they, you know, I mean, best idea wins, and they play hard all the time. And then you bring in a little bit of discipline of process on top of that, and you know, you have this magical combination. Um, but I think that like across the company in general, um, exposure and building trust and spending time on the human element of mentorship and hey, these are some innovative things that we're doing. Can you help us to take these ideas and make them better? um, what are some problems that you need to solve in your market? Can we solve these problems together? Can we innovate together? Can we design together? Can we go to market together? And kind of building those motions, a team at a time, sometimes a person at a time, sometimes a learning series at a time. um, that those are some of the things that we've worked through at SAIC.
And I mean, just to hang on the cuff of challenges, um, we can pivot a little bit to challenges and opportunities in AI and cybersecurity, because those are two buzzwords that everybody on this platform has seen, especially now with all of the developments and things like that, all of the programs and software that we've all engaged in. AI and cybersecurity is becoming that thing. And so you've overseen directorates for IT, AI, and cyber at the Air Force and now at SAIC. So, what are the most pressing challenges that you face in those areas today? And what emerging technology do you believe hold the most promise for addressing those challenges?
Yeah, so I'll give you a different answer for government and industry. In government, it is the crushing weight of the legacy systems and tech debt that are coming together at a time of also reduced spending,
Yep,
and the immense need for digital transformation, innovation, and leveraging new technologies, helping humans to better interact with those technologies, completely changing business models. It's a lot of work to do at once, while a lot of that capital is effectively held hostage because some of these very old systems are also very mission critical. Um, and so that is a huge challenge. And definitely DoD has been through this journey, and is in varying stages of solving that problem for many years now. But it is a
right.
big challenge. Um, and I think on the industry side, it's probably balancing the full promise of AI with the ethics of how AI should be used
Right.
and the
Ethics.
cybersecurity framework around leveraging AI, and then the societal implications of what does that mean, and who benefits from a future where we have the ability to leverage more AI, um, but do we, and where, and how? And is it, I mean, in an ideal world, um, AI is something that just expands a human's ability to think big thoughts and to do the next thing. It frees us up to do bigger things. Um, Much like software created completely new industries. There are the good and the bad. There are some jobs that go away with AI,
Right.
but how do we make sure that we're unlocking the maximum amount of value creations for and by humans,
Yes.
leveraging technology? So, there's a lot of ways that it could be amazing, and there are a lot of ways that we could really screw it up. And so that is a challenge. I think on the emerging technologies holding the most promise for addressing these. Um, I think that the language models, the LLMs, on the side of having those crushing legacy systems, we are getting better at using AI, or even basic automation, basic visualization sometimes is the foundation we're talking about in some places,
Right.
at being able to see the end-to-end architectures, to make better end-to-end decisions, to optimize investments. There is more that we can do to help solve some of those problems. Um, and with the right investment, you can also sometimes get a faster turnaround on stopping doing certain things.
Yes.
So that you can, in the same year, take that investment and roll it into getting a little bit closer to killing a legacy behemoth that just needs to die. Um, and upskilling more of your workforce so that people can see, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, where you have a very expensive system, multiple times. You have 10 different screens connected to 10 different servers, connected to 10 different data sets. And the day that the vast majority of your workforce understands that that whole situation is kind of like an app on my iPhone, or it should be. Um, it, like, all of those 10 screens, they could be 10 apps in one secure cloud
Right.
with one secure segmented data source. And that is just so much more effective and cost efficient than what we
Right.
do now. But it takes the ability to visualize that end-to-end architecture and truly understand and make those tough decisions, and to really have enough technical and business depth to sometimes get past the hyperbole of, well, we can't shut down this really super important system. Well, it's
Right.
like, absolutely, we can't. We can't shut down the functionality or the output. but maybe we can do it in a different way. And I've seen some great success stories there, but I've also seen just it is hard. I think I've already hit that one.
No, yeah, and I mean, you make a good point. I see it in the areas of focus that I deal with on a day to day in the DoD. So I'm shaking my head yes in like complete agreement. And you also talked about balancing, right? So, which is a perfect segue because I'm about to ask you about how you balance rapid advancement of AI technologies with the ethical considerations that we did talk about, and particularly in defense and intelligence applications, especially with the DoD red tape, because you know that that policy comes with it.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually DoD has been pretty good, probably because of its love for policy, at putting out governance and policy that very well governs AI ethics for the department, and also was kind of in the early days of hiring AI ethicists because it was so important, because you don't want the first thing to think for people to think about when they hear DoD and they hear AI. I think you're a little younger than I am, but the
Let's
children of
try it.
the children of the 80s and 90s, it's like you go to Terminator, you're thinking about
Oh
Skynet
no, that's my favorite. Oh my gosh.
and all
Terminator
of that
2 was
stuff.
the thing. That is my favorite movie. I've had definite movie nights with Terminator 2. Yes,
That's hilarious. But if people are thinking about war games and Terminator, like that is not what we want people to be thinking about when they're thinking
absolutely.
AI in the department. Um, you have other governments around the world that are collecting all sorts of information that would violate our privacy laws
Right.
and taking on a lot of data. There are a lot of kind of rules about how we do that in this country. Um, and within the military enterprise, I think there is large agreement right now that the human has the strategic intent. The human gives the order, that
Right.
any AI that's used is with that human intent, and it's there to help speed the decision cycle of the human or to convey that human's intent. Um, so that's, kind of a key place at where we are in the AI journey. But at SAIC also has an AI ethicist, and she's fantastic. And I think more and more organizations, whether public or private, are bringing in that skill set and having them in relatively senior roles to make sure that that voice is loud and present.
Right. And that's another, I mean, that's another, particular, like, I guess, field of study that you can go into because I know STEAM, we do have ethics and bioethics trainings and things like that. So ethics is actually like a pretty decent, I mean, you spoke about it a couple of times. So maybe that's something that, someone on this platform might want to hear. Like if you want to deal with the rulings and the situation of the policy and evers and things like that, that's probably something that would be right up your alley. So while we're talking about the realm of ethics and cybersecurity, what emerging threats, not Skynet, but what emerging threats are you most concerned about, and how is SAIC preparing to defend against them?
Yeah, so I think if we kind of spin this a little bit more towards cyber, um, if you're paying attention to the news, I mean, the world is a crazy place. It's getting crazier
Right.
and crazier in the cyber domain. I think the craziest thing that I see is that so if you were to guess at the size of the cyber crime market, like how much money is generated in cybercrime, like last year, what would you guess?
I mean, let's just say it's definitely in the triple million digits. 250 million?
Okay, so a lot of people kind of would say something like that, or they'd say something like maybe even in billions, because that's where the cybersecurity market is last I checked, a few hundred billion cybersecurity market. Um, the cyber crime market is 7 trillion. So
Okay,
like,
that's
so the
definitely a different number.
cybercrime market cap, if you made it a company, is more value than it's more valuable than any company in the world. Um, and I mean, I'd have to check I might have to fact check myself in my stock ticker, look at, at how much are the top companies in the world valued at right now. But
Right,
I would bet that that market cap wins. And if you think about cyber threats, just and cyber crime, kind of by their very nature being, okay, well, you're incentivized more towards cyber crime. So a lot of cybersecurity is reactive. That is the biggest threat that's happening right now. So let me build a cybersecurity capability to do it.
right.
With AI, you get to be a little bit more proactive. With
Proactive.
ethical
Yep.
hackers, you get to be a little bit more proactive, but you're still largely playing defense. And especially when we have more state actors pre-positioning things in various parts of infrastructure, and we have changes in policy where once upon a time that would have been a red line, where we would have maybe considered kinetic effect, but we don't seem to respond as much as we once did. Like we're almost kind of a little bit inoculated now to like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
he got fished and there was some ransomware and you know, like, yeah, somebody, hacked my social or, whatever. It's like it happens more in commonplace and people get, a little bit more used to it, but we shouldn't,
Right.
like we should
So
hold
dangerous to be
companies.
complacent.
Yes, and it is really important, and it's something that companies have to be careful of. It's really something that that governments have to be thinking about. If
Right.
we talk a little bit about asymmetric war, um, and if you go back to the Revolutionary War, so we as Americans were kind of almost inventing guerrilla warfare. At the time, it's like you march out onto the field and you played horns. You were like playing the trumpet and the drums, and you heard people marching. And like it was very, very civilized. It's like let's bow and then we'll kill each other. And all of a sudden, the Americans were like, screw that. You have a way bigger army than us. So we're going to hide in the trees and we're going to sneak up on you and we're going to use some real tactics and we're going to leverage intelligence. And that gave us an asymmetric advantage to win the Revolutionary War. I mean, we also brought in other people who kind of looked at us as the underdog. The French, helped us. We were the underdog.
Right.
And so we started bringing in allies, and here we are as the United States of America. Um, if you look at that for future wars, um, if you're talking about airplanes and
Different.
ships, but your adversaries invest in crippling cyber attacks and long range strike, that is an asymmetric advantage. And you have to, and even if you're thinking about, hey, there's a threat, like somebody shot something at me, and it cost $10,000 what they shot at me, but what I have to shoot at them costs $1 million. Then every time they shoot at me for $10,000 and I shoot back at them for $1 million, that's a different type of warfare right there. Like
Yeah.
eventually I'm going to be broke just from responding to you hitting me,
Right.
so those are a couple of the trends that the top thinkers in our DoD and military are thinking about. But even in a corporate setting, we how do you do things in a different way? I mean, that is innovation.
Yeah.
How do you change a paradigm in the way that you fight, in the way that you go to market, and the way that you solve problems?
Yeah. And I mean, Lauren has a way of queuing up discussions like none other because she has a great segue. Something in the answer gives me a segue to the next one. And this is no different because we're segueing into like influence and impact on digital transformation. So, as far as digital transformation, it's pivotal in today's technology landscape. From your strategic vantage point, what are some of the transformative impacts that you've observed in the defense and intelligence sectors, and how do you see these evolving over the next decade?
Yeah, so on the defense and intelligence side, there really has been quite a transformation. If I go back to, well, and sometimes we see how slow things go and we don't kind of give it credit and like kind of clap for a second at the progress. Um, but if you go back to 2020, um, people in the Pentagon were still, you do have senior officials who are in 2020 saying, man, these kids are saying that they need collaboration tools. That is just silly. That, like not direct quote, but I'm going to exaggerate and
No,
say,
yeah.
like these entitled millennials who think that they need collaboration tools to do their job, like I didn't need any of that. And then COVID happens and people are forced to actually use decent collaboration tools, a little bit of AI backed productivity.
Right.
People are forced to work in completely different ways. People have digital Kanban boards. People have digital whiteboards. Like we're able to collaborate across continents all of a sudden so well. And some of the same people that were saying like, oh, those entitled millennials, all of a sudden are like, oh my gosh, like, how did we not work this way before? But COVID gave a gift in that way because it forced it. There
Right.
was no messing around and getting everybody on the same page and figuring out how to do it. It was like, no, this needs to be up like in days,
Like
like
now.
maybe a week, and then we have a real problem. And so that was huge, just getting people to understand new ways to collaborate, new business models, new ways to not have to travel everywhere to work together. That was game changing. It and like silly and foundational and game changing. Um, I think another one, we were just talking about cybersecurity. So I recently joined a public company board, and I'm one of the folks on the board that provides cybersecurity expertise. One of the things that I read recently, and I hope I'm quoting this properly, is that companies that invest in their zero trust journey, they have about $1 million less exposure per cybersecurity event. And um, and so that is it's kind of interesting. Like if you think about your risk equation, um, in the DoD, zero trust was the first time that I saw any type of cyber related concept make it to the top of a budget build over things like airplanes and
Right.
nukes, ships, because the warfighters understood, wait a second, zero trust architecture is a way that I can get real things done quickly, and I can also impose threat on the adversary who's trying to hack me. And I can also make sure that I am assuring my mission. So I can get full impact and speed, and I can do it securely, and I can be much more nimble than I was in the past. So it wasn't really about cybersecurity to them. It was that they could do all of those things. And so I do think that that is a game-changing framework, and it's easy to kind of, some people are kind of dismissive about it occasionally, like, oh, it's just, doing the stuff that we should have done the whole time. Well, sort
Right.
of. Sort of. Some of those things, yes. But being able to automate some of those things, being able to segment to a new level, being able to pull those things together into a real end-to-end architecture, there wasn't the level of discipline, even, a few years ago that there is now. I think Google was the first like 15 years ago, it took the department a little bit
Yeah.
longer, but here we are. DevSecOps. Um, the Air Force famously started the Kessel Run to smuggle DevSecOps into the DoD back circa 2016, 2017, somewhere in,
Yeah. Something right before COVID. Yep.
yeah. And they were very early adopters. Um, and now it is more and more part of the culture. Like senior leaders can say DevSecOps. They know what it means. They sort of know what agile thinking and agile design means. More and more people can participate in an intelligent way in a scrum or in grooming a backlog, and kind of translating that as we're figuring out what are the most important things that we can deliver in this next package of time, and kind of thinking through that way and seeing the results of things that used to take many, many, many years being delivered in hours, days, weeks. And then also game changing, figuring out the cybersecurity accreditation mechanisms that go with that.
Man.
Because yeah, and I will be the first one to say, it doesn't happen every time or even most of the time across the department. But in 2017, it happened none of the time. And one of the first fun things that I got to do with Kessel Run was, at the time they could deploy code 14 times a day. And the fastest authorizing official in the Department of Defense, who is still there, Danny Holtzman, he's working up at the CDAO office now, true superhero in a suit. He was the fastest AO in the department, and it still took about 2 months. So I can deploy 14 times a day, and in 2 months I can get accredited by the fastest person on the planet. And we all
That is
work
fast.
together to get it down. Well, it is fast, but it's not fast enough. And so we said, well, how do we automate this? How do we get it so that I could deploy 14 times a day, and the warfighter actually gets that capability 14 times a day? Or if the warfighter doesn't get that capability 14 times a day, it's not because of the cybersecurity accreditation. It's
Right.
because we want to test it operationally, or we want to do something else, but it's not because we're manually going back through something that we can largely automate and test. And so that was game changing. And that continuous ATO framework really laid the groundwork for proving out that capability and making it go through to the point where, you could deploy hundreds of times per day. And then you would kind of do your operational testing in batches. And so that was huge. I mean, just having cloud-based architecture, not getting to a point in your infrastructure, which only has been the past few years in the DoD, where you can push a software patch or you can update a system, and this is from more modern systems now, and you have reasonable assurity that you're not going to break it. I mean, that was not that long ago in the Department of Defense that most things broke something. You have to go a lot back. You have to go back a lot further in the commercial world, but it was still a thing. It still is a lot of places. So that, that has been, that's been a wild journey. And now, because of those foundational investments in just enterprise platforms and collaboration, you now have more and more AI-backed tools that are in everybody's workspace. And you have more people that can take those tools and do whatever their creativity brings them to do. I think once people have more enterprise accredited LLMs, more kind of chat GPT like capabilities in their enterprise, I know the
Yes.
Air Force has one. More and more enterprises are doing that. Because, public service announcement, you don't put your company or your government data into chat GPT on the open internet. It retrains the algorithm and teaches everybody else all the stuff that you didn't just want to share. So I'll put that aside. But when people bring it into enterprises, all of a sudden you are empowering so many people to have outsized impact, and also to not do stupid stuff that they don't want to do.
Right.
And so that is powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, that is life changing when you think about the dollars that goes into the mistakes that are made throughout the ATO process. And one of the things that I don't know if anybody caught that in the audience, but she's dropping major Mario coins here by telling you about zero trust. Let's just say that is a huge buzzword right now in the DoD to get everybody up on the angle of zero trust. So she is coming with so much detail that you have no idea. Like I hear this and I'm just like, I'm grinning because I hear it on a daily and I'm just like, okay, yes, thank you for sharing that with with the audience. So if you are into cybersecurity, you're into innovation management, or into digital transformation, Lauren is giving you so much detail without giving away company, proprietary knowledge. She is giving you so much that you could take back and really make your own impact in the STEAM world as far as cybersecurity and technology is concerned. So let's talk about maybe an example of a successful digital transformation project that you've made, have led recently or in the past, and what were the key factors that contributed to the success for you, Lauren?
Yeah. So one that is current that I'm proud of with SAIC, we have a program called CBC2, Cloud-Based Command and Control. And this is one of those very, very old systems. I guess this could be an example of the system that I talked about that has the multiple screens, the multiple databases, the multiple servers. And so it's a huge digital transformation to go from that to re-architect, to bring to the cloud, to bring some speed. And I think that it's been really interesting to see the government embrace kind of that mission integrator role. And that is what we are, at SAIC is we're not trying to create a new cloud like AWS, Google, Microsoft. They've created great
It's
clouds.
fair. Yeah.
So we're going to buy our compute from them. We're going to build environments in those clouds. But we bring the know-how of securing those clouds, of bringing in the data sources and the data architecture, of helping do that at multiple levels of classification, um, at tying together the mission threads through the software, but in a modern way that a warfighter can use with solid user experience, um, and just greater domain awareness. And so that has been pretty neat. We've been able to bring in venture-backed companies into that, and kind of new partners to throw at that as well. Um, and I think that because it's so critical, that mission, and that platform, we've seen the department move with speed and to really think about, how can I innovate? How can I bring new capabilities to the warfighter faster? And so even kind of the collaboration around policy and all of those things that normally are slow, I see the department being very serious about it and us being very serious as a partner to drive. So that's been incredibly refreshing.
Well, wow. And also working with industry partners, like you're not just keeping the whole pie for yourself. You're shaving off little pieces and giving other people the ability to kind of flex their own muscles. That's incredible. Um, so what technologies do you see as being pivotal in the next phase of digital transformation? And how has SAIC positioned to leverage these technologies?
Operational AI is top of mind. Um, and I say that because it in itself is such a game-changing area of technology that I don't think that we have fully tapped
Yeah,
like the full impact. Um, Not everyone knows how to use ChatGPT yet. Even fewer people know how to use it for their work. But the people that do and the use cases that I'm seeing are insane. I mean, things like designing new molecules, designing new drugs digitally, and then testing them against just digital models of a biome or a genetic model. I mean, it's insane, some of the use cases, like in such a good way that people are using just to test hypotheses and learn and do new things. And there may be a way to cheat some of the other deficiencies. So I mentioned earlier, being able to better see your architecture, um, being able to better gather data from parts of your enterprise, even when your data architecture is horrible. Like there's no easy button for that right now. But with the right application of operational AI over the next few years, maybe there can be. I'm not saying that there should be, we should get our data house in order. Data governance is a key
right.
foundation, but there could be a way to cheat in some of that architectural discovery, in some of that prioritization, and some of that optimization. I think that's big. Um, but in general, also kind of lightening the kind of the BS toil load on humans
Yeah,
so that we can do more of thinking, what is that next problem? What is that next innovative solution? If I just freed up 20 hours of my time, what else can I do to contribute to my mission? Especially in the military, I mean, there's not enough people to do all the work that's needed.
right.
And so um, anything that we can do to give back time is critical.
Yeah. And I mean, so as far as giving anything at all, we always love to aspire the next group of people, whether it be someone that's already seasoned in this field or want to transition over to another field, or somebody that's in college right now thinking about what they want to do, or even in high school, because we have some individuals that are still in high school trying to figure out what they want to do, and they haven't been really pitched STEM at all. They've been pitched other things that kind of misdirect them and misfocus them. And so we come to like the advice giving portion of our conversation. So you've had a remarkable journey. I mean, I remarkable is a lowercase word to say the least. From your entrepreneurship to leading technology strategies at one of America's largest technology integrators, what advice would you give to young professionals, especially women, that are aspiring to be in these same positions later on in life or even now, who aspire to lead in these STEAM fields?
So what I would say is, first of all, and I guess we started here, um, you can do it, like if you are passionate about it, dive in and do it. And I agree, not all women grow up thinking this field is for me. It is. And so, I mean, by the time we're young professionals, we've already kind of chosen a track. Um, so I guess to the young professionals now, like you're probably already in, if you're on this call, but like encourage that next generation of women who don't know all that STEAM has to offer, pull them in, and encourage them and start young. Um,
Right.
and I guess as folks are thinking about leading, don't underestimate the A, because I could say the A being the art in STEAM,
Art.
uh,
Yep.
but but I think the more that so you can, if you can write code, then you can tell a computer to do whatever you want it to do. But then you're just writing code. If you also have the art, then you have the creativity to truly design what that code should be doing and why it's important and why it solves a problem. And that is almost more important and increasingly more important than writing the code itself. And so you don't have to be the world's best technologist to make a humongous outsized impact. You have to have the creativity to solve the right problems and to be able to apply technology to them. And then there's the soft side of bringing people together to understand the importance of that problem, to bring resources to that problem and focus to that problem, and then to bring the technology disciplines around it. Um, it's 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 not always just the tech that kind of brings things through. It's the people that bring those things together. And I think that women actually have a leg up sometimes. Um, I look at my CEO, and there's some things that I see in her that are so natural. Um, and we were talking about this the other day, and she was like, it might be kind of where I am in a multi-generational family. She has a 90-year-old roommate that she calls dad. Um, and then she's got, a bunch of kids and a bunch of grandkids, and they're kind of all, all hanging out. Um, and so at any given time, you're solving problems, you're bringing people together, you're communicating at different levels, you're understanding different stakeholder groups. Women do this all day long. Like women often are the glue of families. Women know how to pull people together. Even if you're an introvert, there is a skill set there that is applicable on the soft skills that make the technology so much more impactful than just the technology itself. And I think early in career, you build that competence. Like you become that expert in technology. You bloom where you're planted. That's a military term, but it truly means like you're hired to do a particular thing, crush it. But then once you've crushed it, figure out what else you can do. Like how,
Yeah.
like absolutely bloom, absolutely help people around you. Look for those problems. I've never worried too much about what my job description is. Like I solve the thing that I need to solve and I do the thing I need to do. But beyond that, I always wanted to do more, solve more, help more people. That is something that's really important early on for relationships. I'd also share too, when you meet someone that you connect with, especially early in career, hang on to them. Even if you have
Yeah.
no idea where it will go, I have had multiple people, and actually most of them were men. So you don't have to have just women as your mentors.
Right.
But when I really feel like I have a connection with someone, like reach out every now and then, like, hey, do you want to do lunch? No agenda, catch up, just, it's somebody that you enjoy talking with. I mean, don't even make it weird by calling it a mentorship call. You know, I mean, you can, like, I mean, it's fine, but you can
But
also
then
just
it
be,
puts a name
hey,
on
let's
it.
get lunch. Like, hey, what are you working on? Um, Another thing that has been really helpful is start from where you can help. And if you almost always start from where you can help, then you're learning about what other people need. You're learning about how you add value. And there's a gift in knowing how you add value. Um, and that is something that you can build over time. And it's good to do just in general, but also if there is a day that you need help, you have helped so many people that it is so much easier to then say, hey, I really need to ask for help. And a lot of times women really stink at asking for help. Okay, so even if it's giving yourself permission to ask for help, starting from where you can help is also a good tool. Um, and then as you grow in career, then it becomes less important how technically competent you are. And there is a point in your career where your social skills matter a whole lot. And it matters not in a kid on the playground sort of way, but in like a real grown-ups trying to get things done sort of way. Do people like you and enjoy working with you? And and there is a point in your career when that becomes almost more important than the tech competence. The tech competence is the foundation, but that ability to work with other people and be mutually respectful and drive results and enjoy each other's company, or at least enjoy getting the work done, that becomes really, really important. And I've seen many women, and I've caught myself too, if you get too kind of, heads down on I'm doing my job and I'm kind of sweating and I'm working too hard, you're
Yeah.
losing sight of the bigger picture of helping your colleagues, seeing the strategic picture, seeing the other things that are around you. You've gotten lost in the trees.
Yeah. You have no idea how it might be for everybody on this platform, but I promise you this conversation is probably specifically for me. Because I promise you this has been a conversation yield for the last week that was it's almost spellbound how close and cognitive you were in the conversations that I've had over the last week. So thank you for that. What has been some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned about leadership, particularly as a woman in a high tech field?
Well, I take this much more for granted now, but did not earlier in my career. And probably shouldn't have taken this advice earlier in my career. Um, but I'm at the point where I am just me all the time. Earlier in my career, I felt like I had to be, overly professional and, kind of like much more buttoned up. Um, there is a level of professionalism that needs to show up in the office,
Right.
so we have to know that about ourselves. If we're just wild and we're that all the time at the office, maybe a little tone down of all of me at the office when I'm in my 20s. But I'm at the point in my life where I know myself well enough. Um, and I'm just kind of like, hey, all of me is coming to the office. And I am just going to be me all the time because it's too exhausting to be anyone else. But there was a time that I felt that I had to be someone else. And I think that the more that you can be yourself and lead from an authentic place and be a team member from an authentic place, that is something that is a gift. And everybody gets there at different parts in the journey. And again, club you maybe is not office you. Okay, so there's context,
Right.
but being yourself is is huge. And the other thing that I will say too, and I'm going to steal this out of Tony's book as well. Um, we often focus too much on a glass ceiling, and we forget about the sticky floor.
That's a good one.
And there are a lot of people, especially women, um, and and probably even more so women of color, that definitely, like when you have even more things that you have to overcome, that sticky floor becomes a real thing to be aware of, because how you can't even get to the glass ceiling if you're stuck on the sticky floor. If you are seeing so many things around you that are just negative and pushing down on you, um, if you allow the self-doubt to overcome the, you know what, I'm going to give myself the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just going to shove that aside and I'm just going to confidently go do what I can do. Um, and honestly, even being overly focused on the fact that you're the only woman at the table. Um, if you are overly focused on that, you've already lost. Like, you've
Right.
got kind of voice in your head, like wondering, like, am I different? Like, do I belong here? Like the biggest thing that you can do is take that and throw it away and say, I belong at this table. I wouldn't have been invited in this room if I didn't belong to this table. And I am going to contribute what I can contribute. I mean, that absolutely is there. I think I had the benefit of growing up with a brother, so like I had a basketball hoop in the driveway, like I was an athlete, like I'll go play with the boys, it's fine, like it's not a big deal.
Right.
Um, but if you get overly focused on, oh no, like I'm a woman at the table and like I have all of these things crushing me, you start to you start to fall into that narrative. And then
Right.
every time there is something that legit happens, because we all know that weird crap happens. People do stupid things. Everybody has experienced a microaggression or a flat out like just messed up thing.
Everyone.
Everyone
Right.
has experienced it is there. I'm not taking away from that. And I'm not taking away from the fact that there is a very real glass ceiling. But if you start looking for those things, you will find them. The more you can tune them out and just do your thing and stay positive and just focus on the work at hand and developing those relationships proactively and being positive. I do believe it makes a huge difference in the way that you show up, your confidence at a table, the way you hold court. And those are all things, confidence, even on the playground, is very attractive. People are very attracted to confidence, whether
Yeah.
you have it or not. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how you feel. But if you
Right.
project that confidence, it starts to be self-reinforcing.
Yeah. And I mean, that is not so. Speaking of mentorship, because she is so good at anticipating these questions. How how important has mentorship been in your career? We know it's been vast and prominent. Um, and how do you approach mentoring others?
So I see most people as a potential mentor for me. I don't call anyone a mentor, and I actually don't call anyone a mentee. Truly. Um, there are people that I learn more from than I share with, and there are people that I share with more than I learn from, but I learn from everybody. And so, like, finding those moments to learn from everybody, super important. When I was in the Pentagon, I shared that I thought that every general officer should have a captain as a mentor, and I meant it. Because there is a point at which you are senior in your career. And again, you have all of that experience, all of that wisdom, all of those things that like a captain, for instance, would be looking for
Right.
from you. But that captain also has a whole lot that they can teach if they know that they have that information and if you ask. I think that honestly, intergenerational, different levels of experience, a two-way street is a beautiful thing, because like young people bring a new perspective, also bring, in some cases, less tolerance for certain types of BS, which has to be presented positively and collegially, but should be presented.
Right.
And there's not a whole lot of tolerance for terrible processes and all sorts of things. There's so much to learn there. Um, and then the only other thing about mentorship is don't be shy. Like you can formally ask someone to mentor you and that's fine. But much more often, I think it happens authentically. You meet someone, there's a connection. You just say, "Hey, can we get some coffee or can we go to lunch or can we just do like a 15-minute phone call?" Or even just, if you need some advice, like, text somebody, or go into a forum or show up at an event. Um, but But I think realizing that you can learn something from everyone around you, even people that are much more junior than you in an organization or from your peers, if you approach your career that way, you are always going to be learning.
Man. And and that's a testament because people may think, oh, well, I'm young, I might not know as much, but you have so much to give. So yes, definitely, I will definitely take that and put it in my pocketbook. I promise you. Um, so we are pretty much at the edge of the cliff here. So unfortunately, I hate to let you go for this segment, but it has been a supreme honor talking to you and deep diving into the throes of SAIC, the Department of the Arm, or the Department of Defense, and all of the things private and public sector. This has been like so much of a crazy like platform for us to have you on here. And I swear, every person that I bring on here, I think that I everybody is special, but this is one of the ones that is like mind bending. So I appreciate you for being here and being such a presence on this platform because you have no idea. I think it's definitely shaped the conversation, and especially for me, being in the AWIS DC, organization. This is one of the things that we love to bring to the platform is people with that knowledge base that can really support people that are trying to get to that space that they feel comfortable in STEAM. So thank you. Um, so, as I conclude and choke up, as we conclude our enlightening discussion on technological innovation and digital transformation, I'd like to invite Lauren to share her parting thoughts. Lauren, reflecting on our entire dialogue to get today from your leadership in integrating cutting edge technology at SAIC and your profound influence on national cybersecurity and AI strategies to the visionary approach in your previous role as the Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Department of the Air Force. Could you share with us a final takeaway?
So we've covered a lot of topics today.
I
And,
know.
um, I am going to do something that we did not rehearse, so I'm going to surprise you a little bit here.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, um, and you might figure out where I'm going with this, but I would like for you to share with the audience like what initially got you into the STEAM field, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on that. I
Okay.
I think you have an incredible story that this audience should also hear.
I appreciate it. I mentioned to Miss Lauren earlier that I usually don't put myself on the platform because I love putting other people on this pedestal of STEAM knowledge and really, focusing on all of their very magnetizing details. But just to give you a little bit of background that I don't normally share with the audience, my family had a double tragedy early on. I was 17 years old when I lost my mother. I have four younger brothers that I took care of. I was able to be a little bit liberated because of Texas law. 17, you're able to become an actual adult. So at 17, when I lost my mother to cancer, I adopted all of my brothers and I took all four of my brothers with me to the U.S. Army. So that was my transition into the military. I did not have enough money to go to school full time and take care and rear my brothers by myself. My parents were, of course, divorced, and my father had moved on to a different scale. But I did 4 years in the military, and I got off active duty and went back to Houston to try to develop the strained relationship between my brothers and my dad. And 6 months later, my dad was killed. Horrible time. Never in a million years would have imagined that craziness happening to me, but it all kind of snuck up. Um, so in that time, I had to figure out a way to take care of my brothers after doing a 4 year stint in the military and coming off of active duty. And so I turned to becoming a project manager at NASA Johnson Space Center. Um, During that time, I focused heavy on sciences and was really looking into getting into biology and going to medical school. But of course, those things kind of took a little bit of a turn, and one thing led to another. I ended up finishing my degree. I jumped into a double major headfirst in my biology and public health degrees while I was still at NASA. And over the 10-year span, I amassed three master's degrees and was able to raise my brothers and focus a little bit on myself. So, um, 20 years in the in the development. Of course, now I'm on the East Coast, and I'm working in the Intel community. But part of the reason why I joined the STEAM field was because I knew that it was such an integrated ability. I was able to hop from biology and physics to public health to data analytics and data science to cybersecurity. And in all of those roles, that analytical background and that development for big data and processing all of those types of elements of coding and syntax and HTML and all these things, they kind of integrated me into a different purpose. So every time I was able to make a jump from some type of derivative to another approach. So I ended up in a banking structure for about 2 years, working at JP Morgan in the intelligence operations side of the bank and working with fraud strategy. Which is why I had such a low number on that. I was thinking JP Morgan. And then I transitioned into cybersecurity fully, and that's where I am today. So, a little bit of a surprise. Yes, I had a little bit of a crazy situation early on, but I did not let it phase the person that I became today. And I have definitely been a better person for it. And if I had the opportunity to do this all again, I definitely will. I love my family. I love my brothers. They are my absolute heart. Even though they give me such a problem sometimes, that's boys for you. But here's the open ended knowledge base for Ambericent as far as your president for AWIS DC. So kind of
Yeah. And I
follow up.
mean, that's a serious story. Um, and we can't see people, we can't see, who's online like crying or
I'm
like
so sorry.
being so, no, like just being im impressed, touched, like all of the things. I'm glad I heard that story earlier first. Um, but I mean, for you, I mean, you're clearly talented, you had the aptitude, you had some grit. But I mean, that field, like if you're advising young girls, like how do you make sure that you have more opportunities in life when crazy stuff that sometimes happen in life come down? Like hopefully, hopefully we don't have, a lot of people that are losing both of their parents at 17 and trying
Right,
to take care of a bunch of brothers like you did. But you had those skills and you applied them and you were so smart in the way that you leveraged, I mean, the military is an amazing entry point.
yes,
um the way that you jumped into the field, you're getting your doctorate now. So we just spent an hour talking about me. I mean, you need to be on your own show because you have such an inspiring story that goes beyond all of those things to STEAM as a survivor. It's a survival skill.
right,
I mean, you were able to take care of your family because of those skills. And I think we can take for granted, like, oh, it's a field I'm passionate about and like it's cool. But like it means real options and real doors, like more of those
right.
doors that we were talking about earlier in the discussion, and more power to choose which of those doors you go through. So I think, that is a message that we should all be sharing with young girls. And I think you are an incredible ambassador. So it's been
Thank
such a
you so
pleasure
much.
getting to know you, and thanks for your leadership in this field.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And I'm one to, I always put other people on the platform. I never talk about myself. So this was definitely opening for sure. And hopefully, anybody that hears this will take that away and really look at what their focus is and say, okay, you know what, there is an end of this, and I can actually do something meaningful in my career for sure. So thank you.
All right. Well, thanks. And that's all I got.
Well, so I want to go ahead and acknowledge Miss Lauren Knausenberger for her invaluable contributions and amazing insights to everything she shared with us today, everything that she, put into perspective on digital transformation and technology advocacy and strategic innovation to our audience. We trust that today is, one of those conversations that is not only illuminated the transformative potential of advanced technologies in defense and intelligence for you, but we also hope that we've inspired interest in these dynamic fields, motivating you to either launch your own initiatives or enhance your current endeavors with fresh enthusiasm and understanding. So, with that, please keep an eye out for our next guest in the STEAM Speaker Series. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, add any questions for us. And I will definitely tell you details coming soon. I always like to sneak in the new person and hide it until the very last minute so you're surprised. So expect nothing different from me. Thank you for joining us and delving into the expansive realms of digital transformation and cybersecurity and pushing those boundaries of national security, technology, and inclusivity. I'm Ambericent Cornett, along with our trailblazer in technology and our new AWIS DC ally, Miss Lauren Knausenberger. And together, we are empowering women in science, one discovery at a time. Until then, we'll see you later. Thank you for joining.